We're no different from a robot. We're no different from a social, biological robot. Because this is very important. Because if you think about it, there's an American writer once wrote that your birth, my birth, our births, was like being born and then being kidnapped and then sold into slavery. Listen to what I'm saying. Your birth, Uncle G, your birth, Akhi, your birth, brother, Akhawat, sisters, your birth was like being born and then being kidnapped and then sold into slavery. Wallahi, that's the state of the human being. That is the state of the human being. Where even the kuffar, the non-Muslim philosophers said that this was a concept called thrownness. You're just thrown into reality with no choice. Because you never chose that you're going to be a black man. Did you choose you were going to be black? No. Did you choose that you're going to be Kashmiri? You didn't even choose that you were going to be a man. Akhawat, sisters, you didn't even choose that you were going to be female. You had absolutely no choice. And by the way, you had no choice concerning your parents. No choice at all. Even your DNA, the biologists talk about that we have DNA. Even your DNA, you had no choice in your DNA, the thing that really shapes your biological makeup. No choice, zero, finished, khalas. And then we think we're free. And we think we're free. We didn't choose our parents, we had no choice. We didn't choose the socio-economic environment where our parents came from. We didn't choose the geography. We didn't choose our lineage. We didn't choose where we came from. We didn't choose our color, our gender, our size, our shape. None of these things. And we think we're free. We also have a slavery to our own self. The carnal, bestial aspects of humanity. Our instincts, our animalistic drives. Many of us are slaves to our nafs. This is why one of the 11th century theologians, Al-Ghazali, and Ibn Taymiyyah wrote about this, and Ibn Taymiyyah's students wrote about this as well. They basically said, especially Al-Ghazali in his book, The Alchemy of Happiness, he basically said, you think that you know yourself. You think you know yourself. Because when you're hungry, you eat. When you're enraged and angry, you fight. When you have the passions, you make love. And you think you know yourself. You're no different from an animal. But the reality of yourself is in your inwardness, who you are. Your aqeedah, your actions, your belief, your iman. But many of us are like these animals. And you see this in our country, in England. Go to the town square on a Friday night. Go to Leeds, city centre, Bradford. You see nothing but fitna and fasad and chaos, right? Because these people, they're just reacting to the carnal bestial desires, right? Now don't judge them though. Because sometimes we do that. Look at me, I'm so great and pious. Look at the kuffar. This is not a sunnah, by the way. The sunnah is to feel sorry for them and help them and want to guide them and be there. And we want to bring them to us. Because in reality, when it comes to the layman, the awam, Joe Blogs next door, there is no such thing as us and them. You know this? It's actually us, and we want them to be us. Because we have a beautiful home called Islam. The door must always be open and invite people in. So when we see people in this state, we should actually feel for them and empathize and say, come back home. Because this is back home for them. It's the fitrah. It's the innate disposition. So, as I was saying, many of us are just enslaved to our desires. This is why Allah says in the Quran, have you not seen the one who takes his nafs, his desires as his ilah, as his object of worship? So you're enslaved, we can be enslaved to our desires, the carnal, bestial aspects of humanity. It doesn't stop there. There's another type of slavery that we can't even escape. Social pressure. Society. What society tells you, and I'm going to speak to the sisters about this, akhawat. If I were to ask you what makes you feel pretty, many of our definitions would be not the definitions according to the Quran and Sunnah. Because according to the Quran and Sunnah, beauty is holistic. We don't say does he have a nice arm? Does he have a nice ear? Does he have a nice eyes? We don't reduce people to single parts. We see them holistically. That's why our deen is a deen of oneness. That's why we see the inner aspects of beauty and the outer aspects of beauty, and it's all together. But if I were to ask you, you'd probably give me a reductionist view on beauty, meaning, oh, if I have nice eyes, or if I have nice fingers, for example. This attitude itself has not come from your fitrah, and it hasn't come from the deen. It's come from advertisements like L'Oreal because I'm worth it. Yeah? Isn't it? We see this all the time, and it permeates our society, and it develops something called the social norm. The social norm. Let me give you an example. I used to be an international project manager. I used to work for the government many years ago, and I was a bit of a loudmouth, okay? This is why I talk now, yeah? And basically, we had a PA, a personal assistant, and she was wearing high heels, fair enough, and I'm not judging her, I just want to give you a reality of the example I'm trying to show. She was in high heels, and what I noticed was she had like 2 plasters over her heel, and it was slightly bleeding. And I asked her the question, what's wrong with you? Are you really comfortable in those? Yes. It makes me feel better about myself. I was like, are you sure? Are you really sure? Because you could, if you ask your feet that question, they'll testify against you. So why do you think that should make you feel better about yourself? Because it makes me look good. Okay, good. Why does it make you look good, and by whose definition? Is it really yours? And then I made her think, and this is the power of questioning. Wallahi, dawah is just about questioning. The Quran gives you questions. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. And in themselves, do they not see? أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Do they not reflect within themselves? أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Have you not seen the camel and how it was created? Questions, questions. Allah doesn't always give you answers. He's giving you these questions to direct you through this madness of life, to come to a conclusion that Allah is one and that He should be worshipped. So use questioning as well. Use the power of the Quran. So when you give them the tools of questioning, they're like, you know what? And then she took her shoes off. Because she understands this is not really me. It's not in line with my fitrah. It's a socialization. It's been as a result of the media. And you know why human beings are social animals? I did psychology at university, and one of the reasons are that human beings by their very nature, they want certainty. They want certainty. They want to feel certain. They want to have yaqeen. If they don't feel certain about something, including their own beauty, they go to society, because it's like almost like the most powerful thing around them, because it's a consensus, it's the masses, and they will adopt what the society says. This is why, brothers, how many of you have daughters? Put your hand up. May Allah bless your daughters, many of you. Let me give you some advice. Make sure from a very young age your daughter feels she's intelligent. Your daughter feels she's beautiful. Your daughter feels she's beautiful outside and inside. Because if you don't, as a father, I know it's very hard because you're from the Asian subcontinent, words like love and being soft and nice is not part of the culture. Get over it. This is your jihad al-nafs. Because the sunnah is like this. The Prophet ﷺ used to kiss his grandchildren. He used to have mercy on them. He used to say, Ya Allah, I love so-and-so, so I love so-and-so. So at the end of the day, we have to break through this. It's not just good wearing beards, having long robes, and looking the part. But if our hearts are messed up, what is the point? Because even goats have beards. It's dead protein, isn't it? And the reason we get reward because of the obedience, of the love of the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if inside it's not there, and this is why many of our youth are astray, because it's the parenting. Wallahi, the most important thing. So make your daughters feel pretty, make them feel intelligent. You know why? Because if they're uncertain about themselves, where are they going to go? To the social norm. It's a psychological process. It's very simple. And there's 2 processes for this. It's called informational social influence and normative social influence. And you don't have to know the technicalities in the academia. The point is, it's almost an established fact, society counts. This is why in the sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ would go to the influentials for the da'wah, because the tribesmen would influence their people. Do you see the social effect? So make sure our daughters and even our brothers, they feel confident with themselves. They don't have low self-esteem. I travel the whole world, brothers and sisters. And what I see from our youth, low self-esteem, no confidence, no ability to talk, no ability to say something good about the deen, have an inferiority complex. And it's not their fault, it's not the deen's fault, it's the parents. Wallahi, it's the parents. And we need to fix up. All of you are future parents. So we need to instill this confidence from the deen inside them. So they could be people who go out there and they are people of Tawheed. Because Tawheed, what does it do? It should make you think you could take over the world. That you could move mountains by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. Why? Because this is real Tawheed. You know, we always think, you know, Uluhiyya, Rububiyyah, Asma wa Sifat, all the categories of Tawheed. Yes, this is academia. This is academia. But what does it really mean? What do we say about Allah sometimes? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no true power apart from the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this is true, here, not here, here. If it's true, then it should change our whole lives. We should never have an inferiority complex anymore. And we should believe that we could move mountains. Why? Because behind everything is the will and power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When things happen, it's because of His will and because of His qudra, because of His power. Not because of Joe Blogs, the Zionists, media, Sky News, this, that, the other, the government, oh, I'm a victim. When did the Prophet ﷺ act like a victim? Never. Because they knew this basic principle of Tawheed. Nothing happens except via the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khalas. This is why the Sahaba, they had nothing. They didn't have the iPads, the iPhones. They didn't have computer systems, no technology, effective weaponry. They just had the Quran and Sunnah. They had Tawheed in their hearts. And there were a bunch of villagers, equivalent in a contemporary sense. And they arose and they took over the world and spread the peace and justice of Islam. What do you think that was? Because they had great weaponry, they had interballistic missiles, they had nuclear weaponry, they had diplomacy. You think they had that stuff? They used to eat lizards. What are you talking about? It's because they knew Allah now. They knew Allah, and when they saw creation, they never said creation has intrinsic power, meaning that this piece of creation, with this human being or an obstacle, that has the power to change my destiny. Then you know, it's Allah Azza wa Jal. And since they didn't know the will of Allah, only Allah knows the will of Allah, then that gave them an infinite possibility. This is the empowerment of Tawheed. So, we can be enslaved to society as well. And we see this even in our Asian culture. Maybe not you guys because you're the pious type, mashallah, tabarakallah. But let's be honest. In many types of our family, if you go to a wedding, what do you see? You see people who have been poor all their life spend money, thousands and thousands and thousands, on wedding dresses and gold. And, you know, 1,000 people are there and half of them they don't even know. Yeah, they're not even related. They somehow, you know, used to comb one of their pet rabbit's hair or something. You know, that's how distant they are, yeah? And then they're there, it's all about show and how much gold you had and where you're going to go and the mahar and all of this stuff. And you know, God forbid one auntie wearing the same wedding outfit she wore last year. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It will be Day of Judgment scenario, yeah? You can't be seeing her with the same shoes. I ain't wearing the same shoes, yeah? Do you see the point? It's all about status and what you look like. And this is a social norm in our own communities. We've adopted a Bollywood, Hinduistic kind of culture. And we've made nikah so hard. Wallahi, we've made zina easy, nikah hard. Wallahi, I know, I see youth in students, they find it so hard. We've made zina, fornication easy and marriage difficult. And also we have other issues, isn't it, in our community concerning the social norm. Education. He has to be a doctor. If he's not that clever, an engineer. If he's not that clever, a lawyer. If he's not that clever, mufti saab. Isn't it? Like the deen comes like on the bottom of the list. And if you want to marry someone, even I've seen this with practicing sisters, niqab, gloves, shoes, nets, the works, yeah, everything's covered, right? And they will be like, oh, I want him to be a doctor. And then the deen is like fourth. What's wrong with these people? We've been socialized, isn't it? There's still this kind of, this caste Hindu system kind of culture, and it's permeated even amongst pious people. Wallahi, there's a hadith, to the best of my knowledge, and I can be corrected obviously, in Tirmidhi, with the Prophet ﷺ, I'm paraphrasing, he said, if someone comes to your daughter with good morals and you reject him, there'll be fitna and fasad in the world. There'll be fasad. There'll be fasad. And then they said, what if he doesn't have any money? Listen, what if he doesn't have any money? And do you know how he replied, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, if someone comes to your daughter with good morals, there will be fasad. And then he repeated it again. What is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam indicating here? that this is the most important thing, not the money. Money comes and goes, ikhwan. But yet we have that social norm in our culture that if he's not of a high status, it's terrible. It's just terrible. He just, my landlord is an ex-Hindu who'd converted to Islam, and he's got a job working on the trains, okay? And he said, I can't find any sister. I can't find any sister because they want this, they want that, and deen for them is secondary. And that's his issue. You see, he's got concern. And the reason we have these issues is because we adopt another social norm. So we're enslaved by the social masses, by the influentials in our culture. So look at this, what we've discussed. You didn't choose your parents, you didn't choose your biology, you didn't choose your society that you're enslaved to as well. You didn't choose social biological conditioning, you didn't choose your DNA, you didn't choose your gender, your color, your parenting, your lineage, your society, your nationality. You didn't, and we're enslaved to our nafs as well, to our carnal, bestial aspects of mankind. So we're slaves. We're slaves. This is it. The only real freedom you have if you shoot yourself. Honestly. Honestly, that's the only act of real freedom. Even the Western philosophers would write essays on suicide. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote an essay on suicide. David Hume, he wrote an essay on suicide. I think some of them really understood the only act of freedom is to kill yourself. That's the state of mankind without purpose. Forget the drink and the alcohol and the fun and games they have. You go underneath that, you scratch the surface, they're just slaves. We're all slaves. But how do we find true liberty? How does the soul, the ruh, how does it find liberty? And interestingly, the word ruh is linked to the word raha, which means serenity, liberty. And the only way to escape from this slavery is to become a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the real bloke, that's the real man. Not the man who's enslaved to his desires, the man who's enslaved to society, the man who's enslaved to things that he didn't even choose. SubhanAllah, we're so proud to be the chief of a tribe. You didn't even choose that. You're a slave to that. It's rubbish. Sometimes we're so proud because we have the geldam, yeah, as we say in Hackney. You know what I'm saying? Isn't it? But you're enslaved to your carnal desires. You're just like an animal. Different from the lion with many lionesses. Big deal. Wagwan. Yeah? Make it real. Let's make it youth. So you're just a slave? Oh, you think your hair looks nice, sister, yeah? Well, you're just copying so-and-so from the L'Oreal advert. You're just a slave to her. Really, you're just a slave. You're always going to be enslaved. But how do you free yourself from this stuff? By enslaving yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ubudiyya, as Ibn al-Qayyim said, the 14th century theologian and scholar of Islam. Ubudiyya, having a servanthood, a worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah transcends you. Allah knows Hamza better than Hamza knows Hamza. Allah knows Fatima better than Fatima knows Fatima. Allah knows Muhammad better than Muhammad knows Muhammad. Allah knows Aisha better than Aisha knows herself. And He created you and He created everything that exists. So therefore He transcends that, so He knows what's better for you. So having that enslavement to Allah frees you and elevates you from the dunya, elevates you from enslaving yourself to your conditioning, the enslavement to your nafs, your ego, the enslavement to the things that you had no choice, the enslavement to your color, to your background, to your nationality, to social pressure, to the L'Oreal adverts, to everything. That is the true freedom. It's the paradox that your soul is liberated. The ruh attains raha. It has the same linguistic roots via the worship and enslavement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah. Someone really realizing this, that no matter what I do, I'm going to be a slave to these ephemeral, empty things. Things of the dunya. Coming from the word adna, which means something lowly. Am I going to enslave myself to things that have hardly any worth? I'm going to enslave myself to the animalistic, instinctive desires of myself? I'm going to enslave myself to things I had no choice over, like my gender, like my parenting, like my society, like my nationality? Of course not. So how then do you escape these shackles by enslaving yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And interestingly, what does Allah say about our purpose in life? That He created man and jinn إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, except to worship Allah.